Thanks to everyone here. This is great. This is I'm going to read some poems, a couple of poems, some poems from this new book. It's called "Come On, All You Ghosts," and then I'm going to read a few new poems, and then I'm going to try not to fall off. So this first poem is called "Little Voice." Little voice. I woke this morning to the sound of a little voice saying, "This life, it was good while it lasted, but I just can't take it any longer. I'm going to stop shaving my teeth and chew my face. I'm going to finish inventing that way to turn my blood into thread and knit a sweater the shape of a giant machete and chop my head right off." The leaves had a green aspect, all their faces turned down towards the earth. This is exactly how I wanted to act, but I didn't know where the little voice had hidden. And anyway, who talks like that? What a loss. Another tiny, brilliant mind switched off by that same big, boring finger. Clearly life is a drag, by which I mean a net, that keeps pulling the most unsavory and useful boots we either put on lamenting or eat with the hooks of some big idea, gripping the sides of our mouths and yanking them upward in a conceptual grimace. Said the little voice, that is. I was just half listening, one quarter wondering what the little park the window looked onto was named, and one quarter thanking the war I knew was somewhere busy returning all those limbs to their phantoms. This next poem, do you all know the library building in Seattle, the Grand Pool House? It's very cool. This poem takes place, I've never been inside it. It's like I have this relationship with a lot of cool places that I don't want to go. I can't bring myself to go, so I keep going and like walking there and then not actually going in. It seems more, I don't know why I don't go. Next time I'm going, for sure. But, so this poem imagines being in this structure as a lecture ends, and then sort of somehow remaining there as everyone leaves and after everything's over, like for night. Never before. My neighbors, my remnants, in what have you chosen to bury your heads? Shadow, said one mote in an auditorium after a lecture. Some archive explorer had just finished discussing a group of islands. Inside me for a while, a tribe had theorized, purely and wrongly, its location, merely on the basis of tides. I was feeling extinct and wishing for a sudden, totally silent, sliding out from the wall of 20 or so very excellent beds, so we, the audience, could together engage in further collective dreaming. I would describe that lecturer's voice as twilight shadow smeared origami cloudlet, but the historical ceiling, gilded by the names of agreed-upon great thinkers, is a beautiful dowager, making her sleepy wishes into dimness, soon to retire, gracefully known. I hear soft 70s cell phone songs. Come home, those who love a librarian aspect. I am one. Forgive her time, and she will answer any question, no matter how spiral, no matter how glass. So slow to judgment you can sit among her like a reading room and read and think until the docents come. They move as trained. As trained, they place a careful hand on our shoulder. The door locks automatically, but not before wind slips in to do its research on blackness, which gets even blacker, on the fabulous black dust intercom orchard of what happens when people fall asleep in their dreams and dream what they are. Have I mentioned lately I've been reading a book about a steam-powered carriage we are actually in, moving slowly through the countryside towards the kingdom and its ruined citizens? Have I mentioned tonight we shall both stand before the enormous spiral of wrecking balls in a dress made of laughing glass? This poem is called Journey Through the Past. mention something called the woolly adelgid, which is a parasitical parasite that's eating these trees, a lot of trees in the East Coast called the hemlock, the eastern hemlock. It's like actually a huge forest tragedy that's going on. So, journey through the past. Listening to Neil Young in California is like throwing away the old pills. They used to cure something. And turning your face towards the day, i.e. the ocean, filling the window with gray boats, floating in totally bright, present aloneness. For several weeks on my laptop, I had a picture of the space shuttle docking. Then I replaced it with the ravenous woolly adelgid, covering a blighted eastern hemlock. One branch looks like a limb destroyed by an improvised explosive device. Friend whose father is dying, let us exchange dreams. I'm strong enough for yours, and you can move down the long, boring, beige, literal corridor and replace the batteries in the thermostat, fingering a diamond hair clip. Wow, I really am continuing the theme of this. I did not read it first. This poem is called Ceasing to Be, and in it I mentioned a book by Lucretius called On the Nature of Things, which I've never read. Really on a roll. Okay. I feel very intimate with you all, I can tell you that. This next poem is called Moby Dick, which I've never read. That I've read. Ceasing to Be. I've never read this poem. So. Ceasing to Be. I mean, I've read it, but I've never read it a lot. Ceasing to Be. The idea is simple. Lucretius wanted to rid the world of death fear by writing On the Nature of Things. He says we fear death, only believing the mind somehow continues, even after the skull that holds it is broken, and harmless vapor leaks out into everything dissolving. It's true I fear my death, but I fear the death of others more, because that's a death without death, through which I must live. Or I fear my death, for the death others will have to live through without me. That and probably pain are why people are afraid. Anyway, a world without death fear would be even more scary. Not that it matters. Death and fear. One hand of steel, one of gold. Even you wouldn't know which to cut off or reach out for first, Lucretius, because it is always very dark here in the future. I'm going to read a few new poems and then turn it over. So this poem is a very recent poem I wrote. I'm a big fan of the San Francisco Giants, baseball Giants. And I wrote this poem for a little book that this guy is doing, a little chap is doing poems for the Giants. It's called Adios Pelota. This is what Johnny Miller said when he made his home run to beat the Phillies in the League Ball. Adios Pelota. And Johnny Miller was the announcer when I was a kid for the Baltimore Orioles, which is, I grew up in Maryland, so I was like, I listened to him. So I mentioned him and all right, so this poem's called Poem for Giants. Poem for Giants. For months we've been walking, sometimes with earbuds in our ears, listening to the legendary Johnny Miller tell us what is happening this afternoon to our little giants on the green and also brown with white chalk fields of San Diego, Cincinnati, or St. Louis, each park with its own parameters. I remember hearing his voice on my clock radio almost every night, the summer of 1983, as the Baltimore Orioles moved inexorably toward their destiny. It was very hot and I was learning to drive. And sometimes there are longer silences. And for a few seconds we start thinking about work or our relationships. And then someone shifts from one position to another. And there is a lot to say. Not about the anger that lately has been the only thing bringing people closer together, or the voting already happening in many states. And a small crowd parts for an ambulance to back up and bring a little bed on wheels closer to someone who has fallen and is now sitting up, already breathing a little easier, and saying, no, I don't want to go, but they take him anyway. There's a light rain on everything. On some faces there's a hint of orange. From the brims of caps we feel happy to feel a little silly about wearing. These are, as they say, difficult times, but maybe all that means is we are changing. Okay, I'm going to read one more poem. This poem is called Poem for England. I don't think it's need to know anything about it. Okay, thank you all for listening very much. And thanks to the other poets. Poem for England. I prefer the old translations. Sometimes, instead of the printed words, I am by small blue stars and sentences she wrote earnestly many years ago in pen in the margins, distracted. Now I hold this same book she carried under her arm or in a bag on some steps and sat down in the library and worried something extremely important would happen or not. And now I've taken it down from the shelf. And when some god in it speaks winged, elaborate phrases, though I am modern, it feels necessary to me. Hello, England, are you there? I said into the plastic telephone, one of those old ones I bought at a tag sale. The sound pulses somehow used to run through a long plastic cord attached to the wall, moving the tiny ear bones in Massachusetts, where the Pilgrims landed one summer. England, we think we are modern. Our language some kind of harmful blue-green despair fire covering the globe. Some very new galaxy everyone else is watching, through telescopes our altruistic scientists invented. But really we are very old, and you are young. You are our very old baby we are pretending to neglect for your own good. It has grown darker. Let us turn back to the book. Now we're just touching its pages. Everyone in it died a long time ago trying to get home.